Hi everyone, how are you? Carlos Matias, I'm the Regional MRB Officer for GGI, the Global Green Growth Institute, and I want to thank first the GLF for inviting me to this panel. As you know, we just discussing about how to mobilize billions to achieve biodiversity goals. But we now have more tools to help us do that. So since the start of the third and fourth industrial revolutions, we have shared the benefits of Internet of Things and blockchain, who offers us infinite opportunities to automate decisions. But now we have artificial intelligence. This artificial intelligence will help us even go further on utilizing that information and to make very direct and rational decisions that will deter the loss of biodiversity. And now we also have two main crises. One is the loss of biodiversity, and the other one is climate change. And AI also is already helping us track, for example, GHG emissions, detect forest fires, and advance in renewable energy. But how can this technology help us in terms of finance? This plenary will focus this convergence, AI, nature, and finance, to highlight how AI reshapes sustainable finance across the region. And our expert will share valuable insights on how AI-powered solutions help us and will reshape the region. We will also explore how AI and fintech expand access and drive green financing and transform carbon footprint measurements while addressing risk like market volatility. We will also discuss academic programs in AI that prepare professionals to tackle sustainability challenges. And for that, we will have a very diverse panel of experts. And in person, we have Angela Viviana Bojorquez Lozano, who is the director and co-founder of KIMSA and Carbon Box, who is an environmental engineer with a master's degree in climate change and international development and with more than 15 years of experience. We are also joined virtually by Armando Guido Español, who is the Executive Director of the Global Network for Internet and Society Research Centers, who is a lawyer from the University of Los Andes and has graduate degrees from both Harvard and Oxford. Finally, we have Gabriela Gutierrez also joining us virtually, who is the founder of Stealth Startup, revolutionizing financial processes through AI-powered platform with over a decade of experience in finance. And also, Gabriela will be focusing on how to automate tasks thanks to the AI. So thank you very much, and we will start now. Perfect. So first, we will start with an introductory round of questions, for which I will ask Gabriela to start. And the first question is, as AI has been hailed a game changer in various sectors, including finance, from your perspective, how can AI-powered finance solutions contribute to addressing global sustainability challenges, especially in the LAC region, where AI contextualization is key? So please, Gabriela.
Sure. Happy to be here. Thank you so much. So I think one of the biggest benefits of AI, it's really to streamline processes. And if we take that into the context of sustainable finance, we can really streamline investment processes, also make more strategic decision making. Like AI can handle a lot of data at scale, and for the challenges that Latin America has, like we don't have enough data. So like really integrating more like local data into AI models would actually benefit us on, for example, how to track biodiversity indicators, how to really measure more financial metrics that they are really crucial in green finance. And overall, like, for example, do more like data collection, more risk assessment, and on the forecasting side, really integrating all of these data into how to track or how to better like improve like investments on reforestation, as well, using a simulation engine, we can really predict long-term the economic and also the environmental returns. I think overall would bring a lot of benefits into how investments have been done, and also the type of data that we would be able to track on the long term.
Thank you, Gabriela. Please, Armando.
Thank you. Yeah, well, again, thank you all, and it's great to be here. And yeah, I completely agree. I think that, well, we are in a very special time in which basically artificial intelligence can guide us in order to make the best decisions, and especially for sustainability, I think it's going to be of the essence. I think that we are having a great tool that we can definitely use in the advantage of helping to improve sustainable use of different resources. And now the question is how we can do that. And of course, do that in a responsible and also in an ethical way. That has been one of the biggest challenges we have had, and I think we're still facing. But there are some instruments now. I think we have been advancing since we started, this agenda started like some years ago. I think there has been some good progress. Now the financial instruments, and of course, I know we will discuss a little bit more about that, but I think that there are certain specific financial tools that can help us to mobilize AI implementation and deployment in different regions and countries. And that's where I think these kind of financial instruments are going to play a role. And AI is also going to be fundamental to identify those specific projects and those specific perhaps tasks in which we should center ourselves and the scarce resources that we have in order to make the biggest impact. So definitely it's a virtuous relationship, I think, AI and nature finance and sustainable finance, and that's basically where we are standing. And of course, I think that AI will, of course, support a lot of these processes, but at the same time, we also have to keep a check and AI on check in a way in which also is used in a sustainable way. So those will be my initial remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Armando. Angela?
Well, I'm not saying that. I think that I'm gonna refer an article from Nature that says that that analyze the SDGs and how the SDGs in the different KPIs is benefit or not the AI. And the results is that the 78% of the KPI could be enhanced for AI technologies, different kind of technologies. Just keeping in mind that the SDGs, we have economic, social, and environmental topics. So in all of them, AI could make a change. Some of the changes the other speakers have mentioned, but for me, it's a kind of opportunity, and it's a tool that make us more efficient, that make us more productivity, and yeah, that's the science and also that the evidence of these impacts in the SDGs. So I think that definitely it's something that is going to change our world. It's changing now. It's something that is going to be more common and more. We're going to use AI in any of our activities. So we have to make that technology work for us in terms of improving, for example, the SDGs and to make that goals accomplish in certain time.
Well, now that we have framed it as a tool that will help us get insights and perhaps bridge some gaps in terms of information and give us more streamlined decisions, and focusing and now changing into the regional governments, I would like to ask Armando, in the context of Colombia and the broader Latin America and the Caribbean region, how do you see governments leveraging AI to enhance sustainable finance, practices, and what steps should be taken to ensure that these technologies are aligned with human rights and ethical standards?
Thank you, and that's a very interesting question. I have had the opportunity to collaborate and support some countries in Latin America, especially on the design of their AI strategies, and in some cases also collaborating on developing regulatory or ethical frameworks and regulatory, especially regulatory experimentation frameworks such as regulatory sandboxes. So I've seen the experience of countries are trying to prioritize. Of course, basically, we're going through different stages on the development of these kind of policies. So, for example, if you look at the first policies that we have around 2018, 2019, these topics still were not that relevant, or at least not were part of the agenda, especially because this is a technology that was still being discovered, in the sense of we were still trying to figure out what specifically we could achieve by the use of this technology on different sectors. And these were more general guidelines on how to prepare society for the big deployment of AI. Then you start seeing into other policies, especially after the pandemic, and we still start seeing a strategic use of AI for specific sectors. And of course, there we have a question about the ecological and sustainable use of AI, and also AI being used for these kind of specific strategies, such as in the nature finance, and of course, how to improve sustainability in different ways. And that, for example, you can see now, I think it was a day ago that Costa Rica published an AI strategy, for example, in which many of these elements are present there, and sustainable use, how to respect a human-centric approach, but at the same time an ecological use of AI. It's a big part of the agenda, which years before, I think, was not as clear as it is now. So basically, that's for sure the evolution, a little bit of the evolution that's in those stages. Also, in the ethical frameworks, now sustainability, and of course, the use of AI to improve ecological protection, and tools such as nature finance. It's something that is increasing. Still, I think we need to figure out how to use this, and there is a big question on how to introduce this into the policies that are being developed in the region and in some countries, especially now that some countries are updating and are changing the strategies that they developed years ago. And that's where I think still it's the challenge, but it's going to be an interesting path. Now, we need to analyze specifically how AI and government action and government policies are going to have an impact on nature finance. And that's where I think we need to still develop an agenda. We would like to see more case studies or specific cases on how this is happening in many other countries. But basically, I think that there, and very briefly 2 points, I think we need to connect these with the SDGs, of course, and with the SDG agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals agenda, and some countries have been already doing that. I had the opportunity also to work with Brazil on these regulatory sandboxes in which SDGs are having a big impact, and I think that's a way of starting to have this conversation. And also on the use of resources by AI, and also how can AI be the solution to start this kind of understanding on how we are transitioning, specific on the energy sector, on this kind of transition that we're going through, how we connect all these policies. This could be an interesting way of connecting those, all these decisions that are being made. So just briefly, a very general review of how I see the region moving in the next years on this specific topic.
Thank you, Armando. Also, I mean, going to that particular issue about policies, Angela, how do you see from a public policy and monitoring perspective, how do you see that AI will be enhancing effectiveness of climate finance strategies, and particularly improving how the accuracy of GHG emission estimations at national and local levels?
I think it's a big challenge that right now all the countries have had with the accountability of GHG emissions and interaction into the mitigation emissions and the inventories, national inventories of emissions. And this is because we don't have enough data and we don't have enough time to analyze a lot of databases. I used to work with the national government of Colombia doing the environmental, national inventories of GHG emissions, and we always have the question of how we can make coherent the reduction emissions that are linked to the national goals, the national goals of mitigation, and the data that we account as emissions, as national inventories. And that's the way how the convention, the convention, the climate change convention, marks all the nations. So I think that AI is the tool that it's gonna change that situation, and that and AI have the capacity to link a lot of data and, analyze it very well and in a very fast pace. So, for example, in Colombia, we normally take 1 to 2 years to doing that analysis. Imagine with AI, I think with the model, with the model that fit that necessity, we can do it in maybe months. And also, what about, for example, the vulnerability analysis and the goals of biodiversity? Like how all this data is in a lot of institutions, and how can we link all this data and make analysis in a faster way? So I think that in the future, near future, the governments, for example, has to have areas, technological areas, focus on AI and how to solve these analysis of data. This is from the national perspective, but from the local perspective, all the companies are doing their carbon footprint. Well, not all, because, for example, there is a study that says that only the 32% of the companies measure their carbon footprint. So we still have a lot of work to do. We need to collect a lot of data to make possible that, for example, the information of the carbon footprints of the companies feed the information of the national systems, and at the end we can report this information to, for example, international entities.
Thank you. And now, I mean, I just hope IPCC comes to this realization and integrates AI into the reporting, because it's very hard work, as you mentioned. I was just this weekend at a hackathon with the Javeriana University, where there were a lot of young people from Cali fostering AI solutions, and that brings me to the question to Gabriela, and what is the role that partnerships between the private sector, academia, and local innovators play in driving AI innovation for sustainable finance, and how can we foster more of these collaborations to create impact in regions like LAC?
Sure. I think the cross-sector partnership is essential to drive innovation, like even if it would be like AI or non-AI. But I think for AI overall to have innovation, we really need to focus on where the problems are. Once we have kind of identified a problem that we want to solve, there we kind of see or like use a framework if AI would solve it or not, or to find other solutions. But if, for example, we want to use AI for data fragmentation, like what we were talking before, that not or only 35% of the companies are really measuring their carbon footprint, like that could be a solution that AI could like really automate or kind of create more apps that will allow like even further companies like to start measuring that. But overall, like, I think the intersection of these different sectors, we have the private sector that really offers the capital, the market knowledge. Then we have the academia, which is really critical because that would be like the deep research, and it will share their technical expertise. And as well, we would have the local innovators, like, that would have a lot of regional context. I think this is crucial that we have these like three sectors partnership to really find like innovation and to also have an environmental impact. But I think that we always need to start like what are we trying to solve and what is the overall goal? Do we want to focus more on the data side, or do we want to focus on like streamlining processes and so on? And from there, we can really find the best solutions. Something that I think it's super relevant, especially in Latin America, is to have more like innovation hubs. What I have seen, like from my own experience, I live in San Francisco, and it is the hub for AI, but it is kind of like the only central place that we have, and we need to find ways how all of the knowledge that we have in the city could be spread into different regions and not only kind of stayed in one single city. So like really having a lot of more innovation hubs, like different cities, and that also comes like with a lot of like resources from the government as well, like collaborating with local innovators and so on.
Thank you, Gabriela. And now, Armando, shifting to the role of collaboration in terms of scaling AI for sustainability, what strategies are being integrated into AI governance framework to build public trust in financial institutions and ensure that sustainable finance initiatives benefit communities in Latin America?
Yes, well, I think that it's pretty much related to what Gabriela was also saying, that basically, and the AI governance models that we are seeing right now recognize that there has to be a multi-stakeholder approach. And I think that, of course, when we're talking about this kind of financial new products or services, and at the same time that are oriented to a more sustainable use of AI, definitely this has to be a conversation in which different stakeholders are involved. And I think AI governance, and when you look into different reports and proposals that we have on the local level, but also on an international level, that's the main challenge, how to create these kind of platforms in which basically different stakeholders can engage in a very proactive way. I think that one of the things we're seeing right now is that we are recognizing that we have big information asymmetries. And in that sense, public sector, for example, cannot take or make the best decisions on how to use AI, for example, for this kind of specific activities and sustainable finance if there is not enough knowledge on how AI and which financial instruments are available. And that's where, as Gabriela was mentioning, that's where exactly the engagement and a very strategic engagement with the private sector, it's of the essence. Besides that, then, of course, or in addition to that, and if we want to really have that kind of engagement, there has to be trust, and trust has to increase in the way in which we are interacting among different sectors, and that's also a big challenge for AI governance. How are we trusting on the information we are sharing, on the kind of resources, infrastructure that we're sharing? The trust point and the trust element is, I think, very much important in this conversation. So basically what we are seeing is that we need to increase that engagement to be a trustworthy engagement, and at the same time to be very strategic, to recognize that there are different interests, but where alignments can be achieved. And that's going to be, I think, very important also for sustainable finance, because basically we need to see that these financial instruments are not being developed essentially by governments, not necessarily. Governments have to learn how to use this. Also, we have now innovators interacting and increasing the use of AI to develop this kind of services, and also to develop this kind of products. And basically, we have here a big mixture of stakeholders that are involved. And at the same time, and I think it's also very important to mention, we have civil society, and we have also some different actors, especially those that are fully having the impact of any kind of sustainable or ecological policy or ecological governance model, basically, and or decision that are receiving the full impact of these decisions and basically have to be considered and have to have a voice in the kind of decisions that are being made. So I think this is what we are trying to achieve in different ways. We are trying to generate some platforms. I think, for example, the UN has been doing some interesting work in that, and that can be interesting also for the financial ecological and sustainable financial projects, for example, these kind of platforms in which basically we have different actors engaging and having different conversations and not working in silos. That could be a way of doing it. We have these expert groups. So, for example, on the OECD, we have always these AI expert groups that are working on different topics. And one of the topics perhaps that can be further developed can be this one, in which you have a different group of individuals working on the same topic. So I think we have the tools, I think we have the methodologies, but still it's the challenge of trying to get more into this kind of agenda, understanding who needs to be there and understanding how can we increase, again, trust of different actors in the conversations we're having. And just as a last point, perhaps, I also believe we need to have this kind of innovation hubs. The important point is that we are very also, we consider the elements that we have in order to develop this kind of innovation hubs, where we stand and what's possible and what are our capacities. And that's where I think also we need to assess that readiness in order to develop these kind of hubs. And also if we're going to use financial instruments, for example, to have an ecological innovation hub, is that possible? Is that feasible? How are we going to do that? So be ready to assess and carefully assess what we are doing before making some of these very strategic choices. It's going to be, I think, very relevant in the next months for many countries around the world.
Thank you, Armando. I think both Gabriela and Armando mentioned the importance of having these platforms or hubs. So Angela, as co-founder of Carbox, how does your platform uses AI to democratize carbon footprinting measurement, and what impact do you foresee on both individual and corporate efforts in tackling climate change and biodiversity challenges?
Well, Carbonbox is a software as a service that enables and make it faster and easy the accountability of emissions, the reductions and the offsetting of carbon footprints. So in that context, we achieved to make a carbon footprint from 6 months, that normally it's the time without technology, to 3 months to have a carbon footprint and the report ready for presented to different environmental programs or to use that information to make decisions. We also, for example, with the AI can predict the emissions, the scenarios of GHG emissions of a company to, for example, take decisions in terms of having or to implement a technology one on another, yeah. And also, but well, all of these changes make us to make more productive or to save time of the companies in 40%. So that at the end is translated in cost. So for me, in our experience, technology makes us to give better prices and to make accessible for everyone. How I see this in the future, I think that some of this is very debatable, because some AI can democratize many solutions to anyone, right? But in other side, we can also say that AI can maybe increase the inequalities, because we need education to use technology. So, but in the case of Carbonbox, that's why I make the highlight. In the case of Carbonbox, we can improve that processes, and we can make it all these impact measures more easy, and also you don't need, for example, professionals specialized in environmental topics to make a carbon footprint, because we have all the technology to do it by itself, just is in quotes. So this is kind of the things that Carbon Box can offer to all the companies. And in the future, I see that it's something that we're gonna use like in all of our activities, and also that the companies are gonna use it for example, see how efficient is the energy systems or the water systems, and at the end, all of these efficiencies are gonna end in saving natural resources and biodiversity. I think for me, if we conduct and if we create the great models to do it, we can have a lot of benefit of this technology.
Thank you, Angela. It's very interesting that you mentioned capacities, because this has to be done by someone. So, Gabriela, and going into the importance of capacity development and to build that talent, and precisely because you mentioned that you live and work in San Francisco, and that it's kind of the hub for everything related to computers and technology. So what key skills and training should finance professionals prioritize to contribute effectively to AI-driven sustainability initiatives in the region with significant data challenges?
Sure. I think, first of all, one of the things that AI would make easier for everyone, it's decrease the knowledge barrier, because now we can have in our smartphones or in our computers, we can start learning to code, or we can decrease like the level of knowledge that a person that the technicalities that they would need to know in order to achieve many different things. We can have like the help of AI to do that, but that's kind of like in the future, because that would mean like, for example, when we would have AI agents that we will take like really complex tasks and they would be able to automatically like do them. In the meantime, I still think that especially for finance professionals, they need to have a lot of technical skills, and also they would still need to have a lot of context. Like if we are talking about like sustainability initiatives, they need to have a lot of environmental knowledge, because this is kind of still the context and the input that an AI model wouldn't know yet. And in order to make more strategic decisions, like we also need to kind of give feedback to the AI to like, where do we want to go? So overall, like technical skills, like local context, and as well like industry knowledge, it's crucial. Also as well, to drive more innovation, like people need to understand a lot of like data analytics and interpretation of large data, and also complex data sets. I know that it's also like a bit tricky on the other side, because there are a lot of ethical aspects with AI, like for example, that AI could marginalize certain groups. And I think that also comes into play, that we need to have enough knowledge of what we're doing in order to as well train the AI and to reduce this kind of biases on the LLM model side.
Thank you. And to conclude, I would like to go around with a very brief 1-minute thought from each of you on what are the challenges and opportunities that we have now in this convergence of AI, climate finance, sustainable finance, and how should we go forward? But very, very brief, please. So I would like to start with Armando.
Thank you, and this has been already a great conversation. I think that basically that's that's the challenge, that convergence. So basically, we have been developing this very much separate agendas, and I think from my experience on the AI policy side, we have been having a very much independent and very autonomous agenda on AI. What's the future of AI? How are we going to use it in an ethical way? The AI governance discussions we're having on how to regulate this technology. But I think that we need to connect this more with agendas that are essential for a sustainable future, such as this one, also for nature finance, so for these kind of new products and strategies that could be developed. So basically, I think the challenge is to have a more horizontal view in that sense, to these strategies to be a little bit more comprehensive. But I completely agree that we need to increase the knowledge about the technology and need to increase the capacities and the elements that allow this technology to fully deploy. Once in different, and especially in different sectors such as native finance. Once we have that, I think we will be able to see the potential that AI can definitely have in this kind of agenda and on developing some of these financial products, which can be very interesting in order to protect the environment. So basically, I think the call is for us to have more of these conversations, to have a more horizontal view, and of course, to start having this kind of interoperability, if we want to call it that, of the different policies and strategies that we are having in a way in which basically we can make this a more fluent conversation, we want to call it, or in a sense, a more clear way of understanding how AI can, of course, have an impact on nature finance, which I think it's gigantic, but still we are just on the starting point of having this conversation. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I want to apologize to both Angela and Gabriela, but we are very short of time, so we will have to, sadly, we won't have your final thoughts, but I think we will be agreeing with Armando was just saying, that we need to discuss this issue more and to make sure that the convergence of these subjects is aligned with the real priorities of sustainability. So thank you very much. I want to thank the GLF again and ready for the next panel.
Thank you.